Free World of America's Chapter Education Program, founder of the Implant Surgery Training Program and Dental Story Club, and has also trained 2,200 workshops, educating more than 100,000 people, which has provoked the reduction of 90% of drug using in teenagers in New York City in 2016. And also more than 5,000 NJPD school safety officers on illicit and synthetic drugs. Featured letter at the Greater New York Dental Meeting at the Jacob Javits Center from 2014-2019. With a great applause, let's receive Dr. Bernard Fialkoff.
Ok. ¿Me oyen bien atrás? Ok. So, otras cosas que son más importantes. Nací en Cuba, aunque soy rubio. Y estoy muy contento de estar aquí porque mi papá era médico cubano. Y lo siento ahora mismo a él. Y mamá era farmacéutica cubana. Y yo siempre desde jovencito vi a ellos ayudando a la comunidad. So, es un placer estar aquí con ustedes, y ahora yo veo que de verdad están aquí ellos. So, están muy contentos. Quiero agradecer a una persona que es muy humilde, nunca habla mucho de ella, es la doctora Jeanette Gómez, porque ella siempre está trabajando en ayudando a la comunidad, y quiero agradecer que me invitó. So, algunas cosas no voy a poder hacer en español, yo no creo que vamos a ver, voy a tratar de hacer lo más posible. Hoy vamos a hablar no de mi opinión, sino de la data científica, porque tenemos que tener en cuenta que desafortunadamente hay mucho marketing en lo que está pasando en el mundo, mucha corrupción, tú sabes, muchas cosas hechas por dinero. Y el año pasado murieron, a ver si puedo usar aquí, 107,000 americanos de las drogas. Para darte una comparación, en la entera guerra de Vietnam, de 10 años, que habían tantas protestas, murieron 56,000 en 10 años. Y el año pasado perdimos 107,000 y ninguna protesta. Tú no ves nada en los medios de comunicación. Tú oyes de la violencia en el subway, pero nada de lo que le está causando la violencia. Entonces, por eso estamos aquí hoy, porque somos doctores, médicos, dentistas, yo soy dentista, mi papá médico, somos doctores y tenemos un oath que hemos tomado para ayudar a nuestra gente, pacientes, y a lo menos no hacer daño. Y lo primero que yo quiero decir es que nadie es perfecto. So, no cogen nada que yo te digo como si yo estoy aquí hablando como de un punto no real. Todo lo que voy a hablar va a ser real, porque hay mucha confusión sobre esto. Entonces, vamos a empezar con unas cosas que son tan obvio, pero vamos a ver, pero ¿por qué están pasando? Porque vemos que con el COVID que es un problema grande, pero se murieron 385,000. Pero podemos ver que por fumar cigarrillo se mueren 480,000. ¿Qué pasó?
¿Se puede hablar en inglés también?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak in English. Okay, so here. I'll speak in English. So basically what I said at the beginning is it's important that what I'm going to speak about are facts, not my opinions. And I'll give you the references. And that 107,000 Americans died last year, which if you compare it to the Vietnam War of 10 years, that was 56,000. That was 5,000 a year. We had tremendous protests, but now we have 107,000 Americans dying and nobody says anything, but we're talking about the subway violence, but 90% of violence and killing is associated, you all know this, with drugs. Why is nobody saying anything? Because it's up to us. Why? Because we're the doctors. We're the experts, not the politicians. So today, Dr. Gomez invited me because I run this international program. So, but I want to give you facts. What I'm giving you are not opinions. Everything is facts of the CDC, Journal of the American Medical Association, ADA, American Dental Association. So let's continue. We have a lot to do and I have a very short time. So what I was saying in Spanish is that COVID caused about 385,000 deaths a year in the last few years. And it's very important for us to protect against it. But then I want to ask you a question. We lose 480,000 to cigarette smoking, but it's approved by the FDA. So I'm not going to tell you right or wrong. I'm going to just give you things. And as a doctor, I want you to do what you do with patients when they come in. They say, "Hi, doctor. All my other doctors are horrible, but you're wonderful." And then you know you have to be careful, right? Because you know you're the next one who's going to be the horrible one. So I want this to be interactive too, because I want to get somewhere. Why? Because one of my best friend's kids, and she happens to be a director in a very high position, who was doing this program and loved it, her 25-year-old son died of drugs. And she was very upset and said some very interesting words to me about what they weren't doing, that she wanted to do, but they would never let her do it. Okay, I can't tell you who it is, so I'm not going to go any further. But she was at a very high level. And so when you lose your child, it doesn't matter if it was 5%, 10%, 50%, it's your child. He's gone forever. So, now, let's go on. So what happened is, because we were having so many problems with cigarette smoking, e-cigarettes came out. I remember when they came out because my daughter loved the idea. And I had no idea, but I see she had one. And this was about 10 years ago or something, and when they first came out. And it was a solution for cigarette smoking, e-cigarettes. Now it's called vaping. Vaping, e-cigarette, hookah, all these things. I'll give you their names in a moment. And what happened is, you know, we had this in our society, and what happened is, because it seemed like it was an innocuous thing, there was about 80% increase in use of these vaping products by teenagers who are growing. Now, why is that important? We'll skip the video because we don't have time. So here, some of this was for dentists, but we have a mixed crowd, but I didn't want to leave it out for the dentists because it's important for you to know. When you're in your offices as a dentist and also as a physician, if you have someone who has a very high caries index and a lot of gingival inflammation and recession, and it's a young person, under 30, they're probably vaping. They're probably vaping. So you have to let them know that they're vaping, because you'll get them this way. You won't get them on their health, but you're going to get them on the fact that they're cosmetics, because the younger society is very much into veneers and bleaching and cosmetics. So with cosmetics, you can tell them, an entry point, that the vaping is causing this problem. It's horrible. Don't worry about their health. And this is what happens because of the propylene glycol, which you're right, propylene glycol, without the Fialkoff, that's antifreeze, that's right. But that's the carrier for the flavorings in vaping. You say, well, how can that be possible? because up until very recently there was no control over vaping. Another media that's used to carry the flavoring is this vegetable glycerin. What's the problem with it is that it causes adhesion to the teeth. So what happens when you have bacterial adhesion, it's like you're telling the microbes, here, come right over here and start destroying everything, because they stick to the teeth. So those are the two media. And now, let's go into the vaping, because, you know, if you're a parent and you have a young child, you say, oh, come on, Dad, you know, you're a different generation, the vaping is okay. Besides, I don't do any marijuana. I know marijuana is bad for me. I just use the flavoring. Now get ready for this. The flavoring only is toxic for them. And how many of you who are old like me used to go to Blockbuster Video? Raise your hands. Okay, so when you went to Blockbuster Video, what did you buy always? Well, not always, but most of the time, with your video, what did you bring home?
Candies.
Louder.
Popcorn.
Popcorn. You got the butter flavored popcorn. So the factories that produced the butter flavored popcorn, that flavoring was in the ambient air. Remember, it wasn't vape. It was just in the air, diffuse. The factory workers in those factories all developed, not all, but many, something called popcorn lung. Scientifically, constrictive bronchiolitis obliterans. You're basically destroying the bronchioles from the flavoring in the butter flavored popcorn that these factory workers were inhaling. But now go fast forward, and I guess because we did a study and I don't know what the result was, but now we're going to put it in vaping. And we're going to use it as a flavoring. And this is what is really true, just so you understand. This is not something that's just antiquated. This is what they're using. And so there was a young girl on Long Island who basically almost died of this problem, popcorn lung. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, there's no control up until recently on the vaping products. So these vaping products have metal structure where they're heated. You know, you have to heat in order to get the vape, right? You have to produce heat. So you have a little metal instrument inside that heats up. Guess where that metal instrument comes from? Anyone? Anyone, go ahead. What country?
China.
Who said that?
China.
China, exactly. Dr. Gomez, all right. By the way, don't worry, there's no grade for this. So, and there won't be no effect on your licensure or your recredentializing. But, you know, I want to be interactive. I hated Fridays in my school, and we wanted all to go home, nobody wanted to be there. But realize that this, what we're talking about, is like really important. In China, now why am I telling you that? Well, because obviously I know you all know that China makes synthetic fentanyl, which is causing a lot of deaths in our country, synthetic fentanyl. And you say, well, how's it getting into the country? Well, forget about the fentanyl. The vapes, the metal structure in the vapes are from China. The metals are from China. So there's no restriction. They don't have regulations in China like we do. And what's the problem is those metals contain nickel, tin, lead, and I didn't put it here, but it has some arsenic too. That's in the metal that these kids are using to vape. So now you have the media that causes problems orally. You have the flavoring, which causes popcorn lung from all sides. If you go online, you'll see it. It causes popcorn lung. And they're using a media with carcinogenic agents, toxic agents. And you go, well, that's amazing. Now we haven't even gotten to what? What is it used for? Let me see who's awake. What do the kids like to use vapes for, even though they tell you it's this flavoring? What do they use it for? Anybody? Come on. It's impossible. Somebody has to know. What do they use a vape for? Aside from flavoring, come on.
Get high.
What? Get high. Get high. And what do they have to get high?
Marijuana.
Cocaine.
Marijuana. They won't cocaine yet. Marijuana. We didn't even get to marijuana, and they're already sick. Forget marijuana. Now, and I almost forgot something else. I give talks By the way, I didn't give all those talks myself. We have a group. And I run the group with my daughter, Megan, and my wife, Maria. Okay? And, you know, we're a group. That's why you're so important. I want you to realize, I want you to make believe that after this talk I give you, I don't exist anymore. It's your conscience now what you do with this. You can do nothing. But in 5 years, don't say, oh, that day with Dr. Fialkoff, why didn't I listen to him? I'm not here that I'm something special. I'm just like you. I want to show you something. I know I have only 45 minutes, and that's going to get mad at me, but I got to show you this. Because when I change the position, you see something. I want you to see it. You see, now Manuel's in charge. There's nobody up there anymore. You see? Patria's in charge. All my dentists are back here. You see? Yeah, amigo. Okay, so now you see. I wanted to show you that because that changes everything. I want you to see that all I'm doing here right now is I'm going to lunch with you. You know, and we're just talking as doctors. Okay? It's okay? Yes. Everybody raise your hands if it's okay. Okay. Now we're going to do something I'm going to do scientifically for you. Ready? I want you to do something. Look at the person next to you and say, Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Now for those of you who are American like me, look across and say, hello. Hello. Good. Now tell me hello. Hello. Now I'm going to tell you. Ready? Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Now say hello to me. Hello. I say, okay, come on, Dr. Fialkoff, let's go.
Let's go.
Good. Do you have less energy or more?
A little bit more.
More. Okay, you can decide where it came from. It wasn't from the microphone. So that's also something very important to give out, because it has to do with our patients' bedside manner and healing that we can utilize to make them heal faster. Okay, now, nicotine. So young people also know about the nicotine, and the nicotine has certain effects on them. The problem is nicotine also, besides being addicting, causes problems in their brain development because they're developing, they're teenagers. And the nicotine is in all these products. In fact, the CDC found that CDC, 90% of vapes or cigarettes, e-cigarettes, have nicotine. Now, I want you to know something. I bought a bottle one day when I was doing a presentation because I wanted to see if they had flavoring without nicotine. This is before I knew the flavoring was bad. And I read the bottle and it said nicotine-free. But then I had my friend look at it and he goes, wait. I'm looking at the ingredients, Dr. Fialkoff. I said, yeah, why? He goes, the first ingredient says, you know what it says? I said, what? Nicotine. I know you may think I'm crazy, but that's what it said. Okay, now, so what happens with the nicotine? The nicotine basically goes up into the brain and it releases dopamine and pleasure centers. But we're all doctors. We don't have to spend a lot of time on things we know. Obviously, the more they do that, they become dependent and addicted. Because if they're going to substitute their normal physiology with a drug, which nicotine is, which is found in cigarettes also, then they're going to get addicted because the body will shut down. And now you have to use nicotine just to feel normal, which we all know. So I'm not going to spend time on what we all know. This is a nice diagram. I liked it because I like pictures. So nicotine affects, you know, having tachycardia, you get apnea, obviously there could be lung damage even from just the smoking, you have increased acid reflux, insulin resistance, and it affects your reproductive organs. That's really wonderful for our future generations. Okay. Now we'll do a little bit of dentistry, but I want to go quickly, and let me see, where am I? Because I don't have much time. 9:10. How's that possible? We tied at what time?
9.
At 9, okay, I still have time,
So
good. We have time, good, okay, good, that's good, we have time. Now, so the vaping, right, has causing all these diseases, and now what's happening is because of the vaping, and because of the nicotine, and the toxic products, obviously you're going to affect what? The immune response. So if we look in the mouth, what happens? We have periodontal disease, gum disease. We have recession, bone loss. Because what are we doing? We're vasoconstricting. We're decreasing the oxygen supply. So it's a no-brainer. It's like if I decrease the oxygen in this room and you were the cells, you'd all go running out of the room. Nobody's going to want to stay in this room. So our immune system is adversely affected. And what happens is periodontal disease is caused by pigmented bacteria, red bacteria, whatever you want to call them. And, you know, these bacteria, Porphyromonas gingivalis, Treponema denticola, a lot of nice names, they basically cause periodontal disease, and they're basically anaerobic, which is for the physicians, in case, I'll give you something in case you don't know it. Doxycycline is a very good antibiotic for your patients if they have periodontal disease, doxycycline. Because it gets into the sulcus, it also helps collagen, reverses collagen breakdown. So if you had someone and you didn't know what else to do with them and they refused to do anything, at least give them some doxycycline and that'll help them. Now, so the basic vaping conclusions. Based on current information, the vapes leave chemical lung residues. The aldehydes and the components and the flavorings affect adversely with what we talked about, the, you know, popcorn lung. And they affect the immune system. Now, why is this so important in today's world? Because we're doing this, but we're letting them vape and smoke. You know, but nobody talks about that either, like the subway crime. There's no drugs on the subway, it's all just happening. Now, I want to ask you a question, because I really want to get you into this presentation. How many of you have kids? Raise your hands. Okay, how many of you have nephews? Raise your hands. How many of you have friends who have kids? Good. How many of you want the kids of your friends to get popcorn lung? Raise your hands. Good. All right. So now, we finished with vaping. So we have that the metal has toxic chemicals. We have that the flavoring causes popcorn lung. We have the nicotine causing addiction. And then you go, well, what else are you going to do here, Dr. Fialkoff? Well, come on. There's a high-tech society. So let's add a little bit more. We know euphoria. Marijuana. Besides, it's legal. No problem. Remember, at the beginning, I said the only way this is ever going to change is with the people in this room, colleagues, is we need to have questions in our questionnaires about CBD, are you using medical marijuana, do you do recreational marijuana? Because now if we didn't know before, now you know that there are going to be possible consequences with anesthesia, with drug interactions, right, with dependency, with post-operative pain, with present pain, with what prescriptions you're going to give them, and also, most importantly, so you don't go crazy in your office with these people. Because I don't know about you, but when I get somebody causing problems in the office, it's like an infection. It goes viral. And my whole staff goes crazy, and then I want to leave the office too. But we can't, because we're doctors, so we got to just stay there. So you talk about stress and going home tired, there you go. Okay, now. Cannabis also has an effect causing cardiac ischemia. Cannabis can be further complicated by anxiety and then carbon monoxide absorbed because they're smoking. So not only do we have the chemicals, but we have all the adverse effects of the smoking. So basically we have employed caution when we give local anesthesia with these people. And in general anesthesia, the cannabis potentiates cardiac arrhythmias and respiratory depression. These are wonderful things not to have if we're going to give general anesthesia. But now we have this legalized in the States, and you say, but this is insane. So what is the risk in our hospitals with anesthesia? Because we're doing it all day long. And if it's legalized, how many of these people are on this already? So maybe some of the deaths that have occurred had nothing to do with any neglect, but just with what they were taking that wasn't found out ahead of time. Okay, now, very important for those of you doing surgery. If they're using cannabis, and I found this out trying to understand why some of my patients didn't heal normally, when I did a procedure that heals normally almost all the time. Using marijuana can cause dry sockets, restricted oxygen flow, restricted circulation. You can lose your clot. You can have more postoperative pain. The nerves get more stimulated because they don't have the normal physiology. And you can have a lot of untoward effects from your surgical procedure. So it's important to realize and keep that in mind. This is why I say it's important to know ahead of time. Okay, now, I'm going to go fast forward through these things. I'm going to give you some things very important. Dr. Nora Volkoff, Director of National Institute of Drug Abuse at the CDC. It's important to alert the public using marijuana in the teen years brings health, social, and academic risks. Research on teens in which the brain rapidly develops suggests that marijuana impairs critical thinking and memory functions. And a long-term study showed that regular marijuana use in the early teen years lowers IQ into adulthood, even if users stop using marijuana as adults. So in other words, it's irreversible for the country. So I don't want to go into politics, but if you wanted to take over the United States and change its operating basis, you just have to get them to marijuana because they're not going to have any cognitive thinking, and it'll answer your questions why people like you think some things are crazy, but nobody thinks it's crazy. They look at you and they think you're crazy. But now you know why. I'm glad it's quiet now. This is a good time to be quiet. This is very important what we're talking about today. I want to ask you a question. If we have no patients, and they're all not cognitive, and the country is going down, are we going to be happy in our offices? No. So this is called a rudiment. A rudiment is like you have to pay the electric bill to have lights. You have to eat food to live. This is a rudiment. And the world is depending on this group. By the way, the American Dental Association is coming out with an article on all this and what we're doing about it. And I would be more than happy to speak to medical groups. I'm not a physician, so I'll be honest with you. I was a little bit intimidated. I said, wow, I'm going to speak to the physicians, but I'm a dentist. So I want to just let you know that, you know, it's just to help, to get us all to do better. Now, pregnant women. Women who use cannabis during pregnancy were more likely to have children with social problems, impulsivity, and attention deficit disorder. Oh, that's a good thing, so we can give more Ritalin. That makes total sense. It goes right with the Hippocratic Oath that we, you know, not to harm them and at least not to help them. You know, help them but don't harm them. But here we've legalized marijuana, so her child will have a higher tendency to have ADHD. And prenatal cannabis exposure. Now, one other thing I want to relate to you, and I want to walk down the aisle as I do this. This has nothing to do with beating anybody. But I'm Cuban, so I'm emotional. And I want emotion from you guys. I'm not an American. I expect some emotion, because otherwise I'm going to feel sad. And the reason I'll feel sad is because I don't know if this is going to change. And I know that, you know, it needs to change. So I hope I'm getting through. Now, prenatal cannabis exposure is associated with greater risk for psychopathology during middle childhood. Imagine if you had a kid. It's not your kid now. Imagine that your daughter has a kid. And you knew that you should have said something to her husband. And you didn't. And they had a child. And that child now has mental problems. Now you know why. I had that happen to my family. And I suspected it, and then when this came out, I go, ay, mi madre. And for those of you who don't speak Spanish, I said, oh my God, oh my mother, oh my God. Because what I suspected was true, that the marijuana probably led to that child's permanent psychiatric problem. And that's horrible. Now, remember, this is Journal of the American Medical Association. This is the American Journal of Psychiatry. Ready? Here we go. American Journal of Psychiatry. Conclusion. Cannabis use appears to increase rather than decrease the risk of developing non-medical prescription opioid use and opioid use disorder. Wow, that's a good reason to legalize it. Because we have a country that has opioid problems, so when the physicians stop prescribing, and the dentists, they were all the problem anyway, those guys are bad guys, and it'll go down. I'll show you something. Another one, Journal of Law and Medical Ethics. Conclusion. Through a combination of genetic and environmental factors, it's highly likely that adolescent cannabis use can meaningfully increase the risk of initiating opioid use and development of opioid use disorder. Those are teenagers. Wonderful. All right, now I'm going to skip some of these. Okay, now, these are important. Some graphs are going up, some graphs are going down. Now I'm going to explain to you what it is. This is our prescribing. We're good guys. All those graphs going down, guess who caused it to go down?
The doctor.
Yeah, out in the back, Who caused it to go down? We did. We're good guys. Look at what we did. Look at our effect. All going down. But this is opioid, heroin use, cocaine use, all going up. I guess it wasn't the doctors who everybody beats. Beat up the doctors, but it wasn't the doctors. Look at that. We're really good guys. We're not so bad. The insurance company was wrong. We didn't charge too much. What we wanted to do was correct. They were wrong. But they had the media. But statistics isn't media. So what happens? In those states that legalized marijuana, it didn't matter what the doctors did. Opioid use went up. That's what these graphs show. Amazing, isn't that? How many of you knew this already? Raise your hands. This guy, okay. Okay, now here. During the pandemic, marijuana use increased 44% globally. When you get on an airplane and you go to Europe and you get on their subway, you got to be concerned. Globally, 44%. You wonder why there's a war in Ukraine and Russia. Well, I don't know how many of those people over there are on marijuana. And if they're on marijuana, what do you know they're already on? Opioids. And if they're on opioids, we expect them to do rational thinking like we do in this room? No. And there's increased prescription of benzodiazepines, 34%. And 48% increased alcohol use. Wonderful. Okay, now, at the end. I'm going to give you some good stuff. I beat you to death. You ready for some good stuff?
Yes.
All right, here. At the UN, at the World Drug Conference of 2016 that I attended, that's what the little pin is, because I go there and I lecture there, I talk there, is all the governments of the world, all the ambassadors, all the presidents, all the drug council directors, all the politicians, all the UN representatives concluded the same thing if you go online. Prevention and education was going to be the solution to the drug problem because the death penalty, incarceration didn't work. But there's a missing element because you don't see anybody talking about it in the media, education. And that's why, can I ask you a question? Raise your hands. Can you see why you're so important? Raise your hand. Okay, those of you who don't see why it's so important, why? What haven't I shown you before I give you the good part? Because there's a good part that comes, it's financial, and it's energy-wise, and it's health, and it's your youth. How many, let me ask you this first, I'll be nice. How many of you want to stay younger? Okay, here you go. Now, that's good. Now, yo no soy un rabino. I'm a Jew. I know you know I'm a Jewish guy. I'm a Polish-Cuban Jewish guy. Everybody knows that. Yo soy cubano, polaco, judío. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, I'm a Polish-Cuban Jew. It's a very strange guy. My wife is Venezuelan Catholic, Maria, and we're like the United Nations. Our dogs are Buddhist, and the other one is Thai. And, okay, now. Years ago, like in the 50s and 60s, there was these shows on TV that were like Tutti Frutti, and you know, they go to the farm. Eva Gabor goes to the farm with Eddie Arnold, and from Manhattan, give me Manhattan. I take Manhattan, give me that countryside. You know, Green Acres. New York is where I'd rather be. Park Avenue, that's for me. Okay, anyway, so what happens? I don't think it's any secret that stress causes what? Anybody? General adaptation syndrome, stress, leads to probably what? Anxiety. Anxiety can affect our autonomic system, right? If we affect the autonomic system, we can get different problems, immune system. So, if you do the program, and we take our Hippocratic Oath, how do you guys feel when you do some great procedure in the office, and your patient says to you, what's the name? I want this guy here, he's looking right at me, you're right there with your hand on your mouth, next to that pretty lady next to you to your left, and this other guy, yeah, that's you. What's your name? Ramon. Ramon. Ramon, what kind of doctor are you? Good. When you get somebody and you bring their sugar down and they didn't have to take insulin and they only take a little glipizide, how do you feel?
Awesome.
Awesome, right? How many of you feel that way?
Yeah.
I need more time than that. By the way, before I give you the end, because I want to show you something. If you don't do what's right as a doctor, how do you feel? Mal. Mal. Does anybody disagree with him?
No.
Okay, how many agree with him? Raise your hands.
Yes.
Boy, some people still don't raise your hands. Okay, that's good enough though. This is America. Now, this is the good part now. By the way, last thing, I told Annette, only scientific data. So this is from the United Nations. For you who are Dominican, how many Dominicans in the room? Wow! Nice. For all my Dominican family, this program is used por el Consejo Nacional de la República Dominicana y el abogado Martín Almonte, que es el abogado del cardenal del país, la Iglesia Católica, me ayudó con este programa por 3 años y tuvimos esta oficina en la red de los abogados católicos de la República Dominicana. For those of you who don't speak Spanish, this program is used by the Council of Drugs of the Dominican Republic. It's being utilized in all the schools. And it's also used by Secatí, the council in Guatemala with General Nájera. And we train NYPD, is what she was saying at the beginning, NYPD. So here, this program is outside. Please take the booklets, and if you run out, Dr. Gomez can get you more. We'll get you more. Can you see how important you guys are?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to do something for me. I know as health practitioners we're very conservative, right?
Yes.
We have to be the doctor. Doctor. I want you to be like when you're back in teenage, ready? I want you to tell me something. Dr. Fialkoff, doctors and dentists are important. Go ahead.
Dr. Fialkoff, doctors and dentists are important.
The government really beat you guys up.
No, he did nothing.
Okay, again, Dr. Fialkoff, doctors and dentists are important.
Dr. Fialkoff, doctors and dentists are important.
Good. Now, here we go. Here's the good part. Patient education. And I promise you, if you do this, what I want to do, I want to have the Dominican Medical Dental Group do this. I have 1 minute. And I want to give the Dominican Medical Dental Group the credit. This is not about one doctor. We're not going to clear the world with one doctor, right? No, we're not going to. I'll just tell you, no. So here, this is a NASDAQ. Go online, Drug Free World America's chapter. We were on NASDAQ on the billboard. We came out. This is a dentist, Alan. A bunch of you had done the Drug Free World program in your offices. This is the program. It's in 22 languages, and the best thing, you know how much it cost you? Nothing, nada. It's free. Now watch this. Who wants to meet Julius Erving? Raise your hand. Who knows who Julius Erving is? Nobody knows? You know that guy, Dr. J, with a basketball? That's Julius Erving. That's me. That's our shirt, the Drug Free World shirt. You see? We hold basketball games. How about if we hold a baseball game?
Yes.
Dr. Perez Feliz, who pitched 90 miles an hour in Dominican Republic, who's a dentist, he said he would put on a baseball game. I don't want to make it my baseball game. How about if we do the whole Dominican Medical Dental Society, we have a baseball game, we get Shea Stadium.
Yep.
Imagine what the patients are going to think about you. Say, coño, those dentists, that doctors, I'm going to go to that guy over there, Hernandez. And what's your guy? I love this.
Yapor.
Who?
Yapor.
Yapor.
Yeah.
I got to give him, this guy is, I want to elect this guy as a leader, Yapor. This guy, he knew everything. He like, and this guy too, this guy cares. He sat in the front row. Okay, so here. So, and this is our annual gala. And this is in Puerto Rican Day Parade down in Manhattan. We got them playing basketball. So anyway, I really appreciate being with you here. We got a big problem. It's not going to be easy. But it's our patients who we're talking about, and it's also our kids and our grandchildren. So I really appreciate that Dr. Gomez gave me this time. And it was an honor for me to be here. And if you want to do the program, it's outside. Her husband, Mr. Ramiro Dieros, who's part of the Drug Free World like Annette, is outside. I'm going to have to go a little while, but he's here. Get the program from him. He has all of it there for you for free. If you need any question or have anything, call me, email me. Annette can give you my email. The card's outside. And it's a pleasure to have been here today. Thank you for being here.
Resulta que soy addiction psychiatrist, soy psiquiatra de adicción. Mi
Bueno, te voy a decir algo. Cuando yo fui a la República Dominicana, la primera persona que conocí fue el psiquiatra del Consejo Nacional de Drogas. Y él y yo empezamos a hablar mucho sobre cómo ayudar a la gente. Eso es increíble que el primero que habla es el primero que yo vi en la República Dominicana.
I mean, I haven't had an opportunity to have someone who, with so much energy, to talk to people who are surely be involved in this, in today's medicine and today's world. And as a matter of fact, the reason I'm talking is basically to give you thank you for this opportunity. But most importantly is that everything else that you said, except for one thing, I'm going to give you a question. I have very, very strong feeling that if everybody understands probably at least some of the risk of giving the legalization of new drugs. There are 5 or 6 legal drugs that are causing more problems than anything else, including heart disease and everything else. And you mentioned it very well, the amount of people who die from illegal only, but for the legal part is very, very high too. So alcohol, number 1, you mentioned nicotine and all benzodiazepines and all on top of the cocaine and all that are illegal. But one thing that I'm not agreeing is that it's our responsibility alone. As the doctors, we are responsible, but yes, we need to see how we can influence the people who make legal, who are the policymakers, that allows for so much availability of substances. And like I said, in the pandemic, we were seeing more liquor store open than everything else. So it's the policymakers that are not giving us the frustration. Honestly, we are really, really sure that we need to be educated. But unfortunately, it's very frustrating seeing that they don't care about this. And they care about more the market, and they care about whatever, other things. And it's very frustrating. I have a substance abuse program, and it's so frustrating, like you said, seeing this 22-year-old using all the drugs and eventually going to the restaurant today and full of these hookah things that you see everywhere. And thank you for giving me those pictures because they're very striking. I just wanted to make this comment. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Go sit down. You're totally, un momentico, quiero darte una respuesta. He's totally right about what he's saying. The problem is exactly what he stated. And that's why, you see, it's up to us. Why? Not because we can do it by ourselves, no. But because when the patient comes to us and they go, ay, doctor, el doctor Bernabé me dijo que tengo que hacer esto y yo no quiero. Y tú le miras las pruebas y dices, tú sabes qué, señora, aquí todas las pruebas que salieron, el doctor Bernabé tiene razón, es lo que tú tienes que hacer. Pero yo no lo quiero hacer, doctor, ya yo vi 4 doctores. ¿Y qué te dijeron? Lo mismo, porque es lo que tú necesitas, señora. Entonces, lo que tenemos que hacer, y él tiene razón, hay que llegar a los políticos y decirle, nosotros somos doctores, y esto que tenemos en la sociedad es mal para la sociedad, y es la causa de lo que está pasando. Hay que cambiarlo. Hay que educar a la gente. Eso es una cosa muy importante, pero ¿tú sabes qué? ¿Quién está encargado de una casa? El padre y la madre. Entonces nosotros, desafortunadamente, y algo que yo realicé, something that I realized, unfortunately, that I have to be the father in a lot of places. And the women in here, you have to be the mother. And when you're the mother and you're the father, sometimes, you know what, you got to take a lot of heat. But later on, maybe they realize, and even if they don't realize, you realize that you made them do the right thing. So that's why I say, and I have the president here you're the... Yeah, you are of the what?
What? My mom, the president.
No, but this was your other daughter, right?
Oh no, she's the lawyer.
The lawyers, right. She's very important too. Because what we need to do is those of us with integrity have to speak to the others. So, I'll be more than willing to speak to your group, but the most important thing, you're right, we got to get the other people to realize. So it's only my opinion that we, as doctors, we start with our patients, we work together, and let's do it. Let's start. Something is better than nothing.
It's Jamel, the lawyer, my other daughter, Jamel.
Okay. Dr. Gomez, everybody in Dr. Gomez's family is the president. She's unbelievable. Give her a round of applause. She's unbelievable. Thank you. Any other questions?
Sí, tenemos otra aquí, por favor.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bernard, for a wonderful presentation and for the courage to talk about what needs to be addressed that we don't usually do. I'm Dr. Ana Olivero. I'm a pediatrician. I practice in Bronx, New York, and I also deal with the pandemics after the pandemics, which is the drug use and abuse. I hear that perhaps we are changing the paradigm of humanity. You're talking about something, about us doctors doing. And I think the do era is over. We have to be the new generation of doctors, of human beings that are going to create a context that is going to allow this new youth to be drug-free. And it's not as simple. The times of doing is over. We have to become what? The prescribers of a pharmaceutical industry that uses us as instruments? No. We want to be the people that say no. The doctors, the mothers. And the biggest impact is in the child when they are before 7 years of age. Because that's where they settle all the behaviors that are going to lead to that. And they're going to learn how to deal with the challenges of the world in this year. So I really want to thank you. And I want to invite you to become the doctor among Dr. Tavares here, who is going to present this to the children. To us, it's beautiful, but they need to know. I think about my son, and all my patients. I have had three adolescents already dead for, drug overdose, and I think we have to create that new paradigm. So I'm joining forces with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to give you all an idea and something we can do. Mayor Adams got elected because he had a majority of 2 basic segments. How many realize who those segments are? He got elected for a reason. One segment is African American. I gave you a hint. What is the other segment? It's actually the majority of what's in this room, but it's a Latin segment. Latin American segment. Very much Dominican. He got elected. So you know what? Doctor, what's your last name again? Taveras. What we should do is find a way to get to Eric Adams. And as a group, so he realizes that he needs to listen, right? As a group, we present him as health practitioners. Some different things that need to happen in the city, and the education that needs to happen in the city, so that he can actually, for real, decrease the subway crime. And so he can actually get his police not to look at cell phones, because police are also called people. And I would be very interested to find out on those police, because they're people. I know you know what I'm talking about. And I'm sure if you talk to him in private, he would be honest with you and say, yeah, it's a problem in the police department. So, and I know you know that. It's true. So, yes, absolutely. Let's do it. I'm here for you. Dr. Gomez knows how to reach me. The program is outside. Absolutely. I'm serious about what I said. You know, that's why I took the program to Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Salvador, Haiti, NYPD. Let's do it. Let's make it. I want to leave you with a picture that 15 years from now, they write in a book, the medical and the dental doctors of America took a stand in 2022. And when they did, the world started to change. And the kids started to be happy again. And you could go outside during the day without the mothers having to worry. So I know it's a little bit wild, but I think it's a beautiful dream. Yeah. Let's start with that dream. Let's do something positive.
Doctor, sabemos que la marihuana es la principal adicción sobre los teenagers. El alcohol, la cocaína, pero la marihuana es la que está haciendo más daño. ¿Qué usted nos puede decir acerca de la marihuana y la depresión, la causa de suicidio en nuestros jóvenes?
See, I'll speak in English again. He basically asked, for those of you who don't understand Spanish, he wanted me to talk about how marijuana affects anxiety, depression, these things. I had a slide, but there's so much to cover. I had to delete some of it because there's too much. Basically, marijuana usage definitely affects psychiatric state. And remember that the high doses that are being used also are causing some psychotic states. Because the dosage you're talking about, the concentrations are so high that they're taking. We're talking about 80, 95%. I mean, it's very high. So to answer your question, absolutely, it's causing problems. Which is why you're seeing, this is why what we're so important. That's what's causing the subway. That's what's causing what you see in the street. So, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
En nombre de la Asociación Médico Dental, le damos las gracias a su exitosísima y a su muy nutrida intervención y muy necesaria, porque en estos momentos necesitamos profesionales como usted y como cada uno de los que estamos aquí. Todos juntos podemos hacerlo. No va a ser fácil, porque no va a ser fácil, porque tiene el logotipo de que no es nada. La marihuana no es nada. Entonces hay que luchar contra eso. Le damos las gracias por su intervención y reciba el certificado de la asociación. Gracias a todos ustedes también.